Open the door, talk amongst yourselves. Here we go. Let's welcome Kathy.
Kathy.
Comes.
Kathy, you have us all to yourself at this point. You lucky duck.
It's hiding.
Kathy's thinking, oh, good. Where's the leave button?
It will say, yeah, Kathy's left.
Oh, no, as we were saying before, though, we'll give it a couple of minutes for everyone to get in.
Yes.
Yeah, it just feels very cold.
Lisa, you were saying you like this time of the year before we started, and I do too. I think the run up to Christmas is great, and then sort of kind of preparing us for January and February, which I have to say I don't love, but you know.
Yeah, it's a bit of an anticlimax, isn't it? We kind of all hibernate a little bit at that point.
Yeah.
That's the time when you want to start, well, not you, Sam, but booking your holidays.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I have got one holiday left. I'm going away in October for my 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh, how lovely. Where are you going?
We're going to Greece, but quite old-fashioned part. So
Lovely.
looking forward to that. Because sometimes when you go in the summer, you can't explore much because it's that hot. So
exactly.
I've been Greece a couple of times now and not explored as much as I would have liked to. So I'm hoping.
Yes, congratulations, Lisa. I completely agree. Silver wedding. Silver wedding.
I didn't realise it was silver. I thought it was something strange again because I felt like when it was my parents' silver, they were really old.
Yeah,
so I was like,
I know.
Oh my goodness. But saying that, last night we sat there watching, we started a new series last night, me and my husband. And no, tell a lie. We were watching Rob and Rylan explore India.
Yeah.
And it was a really good series. And then he started talking about how the royal family in India, and they don't really ever refer to you don't ever get problems like uprisings and protests in the same way we do because it's like everybody has been ingrained to know their place and be happy with it.
Yes.
And it started going on at that time of night. I was almost ready for bed. I was like, I must have got this look on my face. And he went, I can see your face. I can see you just thinking, shut up. I went, well, it has been nearly 25 years, to be fair. And he was like, well, we won't be making 25. You pull that face at me again. Like, it's took 25 years and I can't put the face on when I'm interested in just what I tell him to shut up.
Yeah.
They just go they really go off on tangent and you think, really don't care. Stop talking to me. I've had to listen to people all day that I don't want to listen to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it looks like it's just the four of us, doesn't it?
I know.
So let's hope that or five of us actually, because Jilly is always there to support.
Yes, and welcome. We will be talking to those that are getting the recording anyway. So
no, absolutely, and also Kathy, this means that if you have any questions for us, we are here for you. So just let us know if there's anything at all that we can help you with.
Yeah, no, thank you, Pat. So yeah, welcome to another compliance clinic with the lovely Pat. For those that don't know, Pat is the backbone behind Appeline, which is now Dentistry Compliance. Fantastic compliance system. And we meet once a month to talk compliance and other nice stuff as well. So Jilly, as Pat said here in the background, is my compliance manager. I've worked with Jilly forever, and Jilly is just wonderful. Couldn't do my job without her. I love compliance. I respect compliance, but I also understand that in businesses, in practices, we also have to concentrate on growth, and compliance can take up a fair bit of time. So depending on the structure of the practice, having a compliance manager and someone that's more dedicated to that role to allow you to do the things that you're really good at, it makes things work really, really well, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really does, because you're completely right, Lisa, that there is a lot for practice managers, business managers, which is what you are, practice and business management, to focus on. And so having Jilly is an absolute godsend. It really is. And having a compliance system that does make things simpler for you is really, really important, I think, because it's really important that if you have a compliance system, it doesn't make things more difficult for you. And yes, you've got Jilly. Jilly still has to do the tasks. You've got an enormous task, Lisa, to run, 2 practices. So there literally isn't time for you to do the compliance work. And plus also, it's not your strength. Your strength is growing the practice. Your strength is managing the team, looking after the team, making sure that you've got great customer service for your patients. And it's a lot for one person to do. And
massive, yeah. This was one of the things I was asked to go to the BDIA conference last week, the summer conference, where all our suppliers and service providers, people that, as practices and practice managers, we're their customers. So Dental Directory and other Henry Schein and Colteen and W&H and all these wonderful people that support practices. They were there on their conference where they learn about what's going on in dentistry. So they'd asked me to go along to talk to them about how to build better relationships with practice managers.
yeah.
And it was such a lovely event, to be honest. It was at Silverstone, and I'm not a Grand Prix fan, but me and Sam were very like, wow, this is awesome. It was amazing, really great 2 days. But what I loved, and I felt a little, that being mushy, I felt a bit emotional about it, because it was such a good opportunity to talk to the industry and people that support the practices, to get them, what do we want from them? What we don't want them to sell to us. We want them to build a relationship with us and support us, understand that selling us something, that then reflects on our bottom line and our performance indicators and the compliance. Are we compliant? They have the ability to really affect what goes on in the practice. And it was hard, because trying to explain that we're not about ordering gloves and making sure that compliance is done and marketing's done and HR, everyone's happy, and we have to do everything. And actually that's impossible for anybody. So to get the word that I kept coming back with, automated, and compliance isn't automated, but systems can be more automated.
Yes, definitely.
And I thought that was such a good message to get. And I just, at the end of it, I did feel a bit emotional, because I kind of I said, I don't want you to feel sorry for us practice managers, but I do want you to, hopefully at the end of this talk, you've got a deeper respect for the job that we do, and nobody outside really gets it. And actually nobody inside often gets it.
Yeah.
Of what it's taken to get through that day. So if one of them had a deeper respect for the practice management role, that had listened to me, then that was a win for me.
Yeah.
So it was marvelous. But it goes back to what you say, you can't do it all, and you'll just spread yourself so thin, things will be missed.
Yes, absolutely. And I think particularly in these pretty difficult financial times, it is entirely understandable that practices and practice managers, practice owners, have to focus on how do we make sure that we're looking after our patients in the best possible way, so that we don't lose any, so that we don't affect the revenue and the bottom line. And so it's what happens then is, because you've got so much to focus on, and most practices don't have a Jilly, then compliance gets kind of put on the back burner, and oh well, we'll deal with that another time. And that's a dangerous place to be, because actually when compliance is done well, it will make your whole operation run more smoothly. And it brings significant benefits. So rather than thinking of compliance as a burden, think of it as something positive that will contribute to you taking your practice forward in the right way. So it's kind of backbone is a great word you used earlier, actually, Lisa. So it should be the backbone of everything that you do, because it's and I did a webinar recently for Dentistry Compliance on complaints handling, and then and I think one of the things that popped into my head when I was doing it was that a lot of people practices don't link complaints and complaints handling to compliance, but it's all part of it.
Massive. Yeah, it's the complaints are your hints, not so subtle sometimes. They are hints at what you need to be looking at, learning from. Same with reviews. And I know, Adam, we're doing a feedback, reviews and complaints webinar with the guys from Working Feedback tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for me, people, it's the same old story. People used to hide the complaint procedure in the waiting room, behind the door, behind the bin, under some leaflets where nobody could find them. And it's about shouting about how they complain, because we want them to complain to us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And we can learn from that, can't we? It was and we were talking before, weren't we, about what's on our radars at the moment. And I know one of my clients, one of the practices that I support, had an inspection last week. But before that, me and Jilly were talking, and it's like, so what are you doing this week, Jilly? So I just thought it might be quite good if we share a little bit with each other about what compliance have we been doing this week? What's
great.
on our radars? So, Julie, those of you who are feeling a bit shy or trying to eat your sandwich and don't want to interact too much, that's absolutely fine. If you want to pop it in the chat box at the side, you can do. If you're happy to come on and tell us, then that's brilliant. But I think if we all sort of share what's on our to-do list this week or what's new.
Definitely. And I'm also very curious to know, Lisa, how your client's CQC inspection went.
Yes, definitely. It was very positive, which is great to share.
Yeah, that's
Julie,
good.
what have you been doing this week? Behind me.
So I have been, this week, I have been collating everybody's CPD, finding out where everybody's up to, putting it on an Excel sheet to flag up when everybody's CPD needs to be redone again. Although I know we provide lots of the mandatory training, I've been getting onto our self-employed dentists this week about getting their certificates from them and at least if knowing where they are in the system if they haven't given them to me yet. So a big overhaul of just checking where everybody's up to.
Yeah.
And planning our training needs for the next year ahead. And I've been catching up with our trainees, making sure that they've done all the online training that they need to have done, making sure that they've when we have a new trainee in the practice, we make them do lots of the CPD training courses on dentistry compliance, about PPE, infection control. Obviously, they have to do data security awareness and the Oliver McGowan disability and autism training. So I was just checking up where they're up to, making sure they've done everything they need to. And
actually, Julie, on that, are you aware that CQC has updated their Mythbuster on safeguarding?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, well, they have, and this is in light of what you're saying about CPD. So they seem to me to be saying on the Mythbuster, might be worth you having a look as well, that they expect some of the training, some of the safeguarding training to be done face-to-face, which is something I very much believe in as well, that safeguarding should be done not annually, but there should be a face-to-face element in safeguarding, because I think just doing it online doesn't allow you to discuss things that are a concern, or perhaps things that have come up as an issue and practices haven't quite been sure how to deal with. So I thought that was quite interesting that they're now mentioning that it should be, some of it should be face-to-face, whereas I think a lot of people do just rely on it being online.
And I'm very aware that we used to do a lot of face-to-face training before COVID.
Yes.
During COVID, we all became so reliant on
Absolutely. Yeah.
and we use dentistry CPD, having that system for everybody is so useful. As I say, we make sure we give our trainees, when they first start, make sure that they do a range of courses just so they have an idea of what's going to be happening, why we're doing things, just to prepare them. But it's so true, we have all become reliant on doing our CPD online. Losing, I think, we're all very used to doing our BLS, ILS and pills in practice. Yeah, sure. But yes, I think that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
I think there's certain subjects that will make people engage better.
Yeah.
We can all be a little bit, there's too much opportunity to not take it in as much. And with, like I say, there's some subjects. I mean, I'm a big believer that I think it's great safeguarding. I think actually that should be an element of face-to-face. I think there should also be equality and diversity. From practice management level, the number of times someone has spoken to a patient and it's directly breaching the equality and diversity. And as a team, and for managing a team, and for interactions with our team members, it can cause so many issues. And if people are not aware of it, it's HR nightmare, to be perfectly honest.
It is.
So yeah, I think it will be nice, but I also understand, how much it takes to get time put aside for team training. So it is difficult as a business.
It is a challenge, and I think maybe then the answer is to prioritize the things that should be face to face. You could argue infection control could and should be face to face. Really, does it really change that much? Probably not. I think for me, with safeguarding in particular, it's about talking about what if scenarios. What if somebody comes into your practice and says this? What do you do? What if you notice bruising on somebody? How do you handle that? Because unless you keep it fresh in people's minds, they can watch it on online. If you've been with people, though, discussing it, they're much more likely to remember it. Now, where did I read the other day? I think it might have been in the Daily Mail, so it might not be true, that people's attention span is now about 11 minutes. And so that's all
we're doing okay then. These guys
are doing okay, aren't we, really? 19 minutes in and still 5 minutes.
But it's those subjects, ILS, BLS and life safeguarding and equality and diversity. These are very people-centric, human-centric.
They are,
which is why that should be our priority if we're going to get in-house training. And it's the same. It's the same with, if I go and do front of house training, trying to do front of house training online, it's a nightmare. I have to get in there, get down and dirty with it and kind of get into the role plays. And actually, I'm a big believer of put my money where my mouth is and show them how I do it, show them how I interact with live patients, because I can't expect them to have conversations if I can't walk the talk, And it's the same with these scenarios. I think bringing back some mandatory face-to-face. People are going to be screaming. Some people scream when they hear this.
I know that. And actually, Lisa, all we can do is say what we think, and then people will do what they want, and that's fine. at least we've kind of raised it as you might want to think about this. If we take the GDC's diktat, which I fully support, which is put patients' best interests first, then I think we're doing that if we think about it and think, well, what is the best way to protect patients from in a safeguarding situation, but also what is the best way to put equality, diversity, inclusion into action. I would also argue actually that I think that looking at complaints handling from a different perspective, which is not how do you handle a complaint when it's happened, it's how do you stop it happening in the first place, and why do patients complain actually, and doing that face to face, I think is a good thing to do.
Massively. I love, it sounds awful, I love when practices call me in because they need complaint handling training.
Yeah,
because you can really get stuck into the nitty gritty. You can really get to the bottom of what is triggering these complaints, and quite often
absolutely,
it's when there's pressure for UDA targets and things start to fall apart. I see the communication problems go, patients don't feel listened to because they're going so fast, and I see when systems aren't good in practices like cancellations, if patients turn up late, what do we do if a patient's not happy with the treatment outcomes, and learning how to, it all comes back to picking it apart and going, right, well, that's communication, so how do we
absolutely, it's all about communication.
And it's all it is all compliance, it's compliance.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's, and I probably get, from my clients, I probably get at least 2 or 3 requests to help handle a complaint a week.
Yeah.
And it's great, I'm there to help, I support them, but I'm also giving them the skills to manage it themselves. But I also, once they've hopefully got past it, I also then go back and say, okay, so this is the important bit, what do we learn from it?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but it all comes back to compliance and communication.
It does.
And listening to patients, not coming back with excuses, actually just going, okay, yeah, we can learn from that. When they're going through the complaint, the last thing they want me to say is, this is a learning thing, because they'll probably say, right, stick that up your bottom, Lisa.
Yeah.
But afterwards, when you can reflect on it, it's definitely, I really enjoy helping with complaints, because I know it can really.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
you're making
too.
a difference and helping them sleep a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But it is going back to the problems that are causing it in the first place. No good.
Yeah, absolutely. And unless you solve those, it'll keep happening.
Yes.
And as Einstein didn't say, even though everybody says he did, if you're continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result is a sign of insanity. So
yeah, I mean, this is one thing that I wanted, actually. I think it's probably a separate webinar altogether, because it's a big subject. A lot of what I've been managing over the last sort of 6 months is when complaints come in, one, do not let your associate do a response. The practice needs to take responsibility. The associate isn't trained in complaint management as well as others may be, and it needs to be the practice that is seen to investigate the complaint.
Yeah,
because believe me, when it comes to me after the associate's done a complaint, it's kind of a bomb being passed to me. And it goes, I've had a few cases where I've not been involved from the start, and it's gone, they've tried to manage it, and it's gone to ICB, it's gone to the Integrated Care Board. Obviously these are NHS patients, and it's a mess then. And I keep saying, once you start getting a few of those that are along the same vein, people are going to sit up and notice, and then you are going to get that notification of an inspection. So you're leaving yourself so vulnerable. Like you say, if you're doing the same thing and expecting people to be all right with it and not complain, you're fooling yourself. If you get the regulator's attention too many times for the same thing, they're going to be coming and knocking.
Definitely, definitely. And I think you raised a really interesting point there, Lisa, about when a clinician should or shouldn't be involved. And I think given that nearly all complaints are related to communication errors and not clinical issues,
Yeah.
nearly all are, you know, I completely agree with you that all communication issues should be handled by people who know how to handle them. I think that when it's clearly a clinical complaint, though, which is rare, then obviously the dentist must be, the GDC registrant must be involved in that. And then the other thing that happens is that there is this reluctance on the part of clinicians to contact their indemnity provider. And my view would be very strongly that contact your, in the case of a clinical complaint, contact your indemnity provider early.
Yeah.
Not when you've made a mess of it, although
Yes.
perhaps wouldn't put it quite like that, but it
No,
is.
I think you're probably not, you know, you're pretty spot on there, but to be honest,
Yeah.
because you know, I've always banged on about when I'm doing talk and speaking at events and things about, you know, emotional intelligence and the superpowers of practice managers. We've got empathy, we've got self-awareness, we've got good rapport building skills. Those three elements are a superpower when dealing with patient complaints, and being able to engage them can actually be the difference of it, you know, completely de-escalating that complaint, because you're just engaging on a very normal level. Nobody sets out to mess something up. The clinical side, I always obviously get, you investigate, I always get the clinical team side involved when it's that. But as you said before, I would say 90% of complaints aren't about the actual original complaint. It's about the management of the complaint.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
where it ends up. And it's communication again. It's not knowing, you know, a patient turned out one last week, patient came late, and the receptionist said, the dentist, I'm really sorry, the dentist said, can't see you. Really kicked off. So got quite abusive, to be honest, but they didn't manage to de-escalate it. And then she wrote a complaint, and it was, you didn't see me, I want compensation, I could see you taking other people in, you know, not correct facts, but that's her interpretation. And in this case, the associate did respond with, yes, but look, screenshot, you've been 10 times, you've been late 9 times, and the 10th time was the one time I couldn't see. No, we're not arguing, it's not a competition, we're not throwing that excuse in the face. You kind of have that in the background in case you need to.
Yeah, sure.
You just say, do you know what? Actually, on this occasion, I wasn't able to. Going forward, you know, I do feel, I mean, this was unfortunate because the dentist also said, and by the way, because you've complained, I'm not seeing you anymore.
Oh,
Boom.
no, no, don't say that. The other thing you must never say, and I hear it a lot, is, can you put that in writing?
No, I know.
Don't do that.
They can write it on a balloon and float it over to us as far as whatever they, yeah.
Don't put it in writing, and don't say that to the patient, because then you have to draft a written response. You have to do it within a certain time, and just try and resolve it at the earliest stage so it doesn't escalate.
I have seen a lot more complaints based around patients failing to attend.
Have you? Yeah.
Patients, you know, I mean, on this instance, I felt, you know, I had to, and it went quite high up, to be honest. I had to reiterate, because at the same time, I have to respect the dentist's decision that he does not want to see this patient anymore, because she was pretty, it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't proportionate to what had happened, the way that she, you know, I get it. And at the same time, I don't want to disrespect this dentist's view on he doesn't want to see them. But I had to work really hard at getting across the fact, you know, GDC standards, patients have the right to positive experience when complaining. patients must not be discriminated against because they're complaining. It's a parliament, it's an act, it's a law. We're not, we've got to be so
Exactly.
careful. I see the bomb go off so many times where people have said, right, we're not seeing you anymore. And this was de-escalated because I did manage to get my point across when I had to demonstrate we knew all about patient rights and the GDC standards and all of this, that he wasn't not seeing this patient anymore because she'd complained. It was the content of, the tone, the way she spoke to the receptionist. And part of the GDC standards is if you feel that a relationship's deteriorated, it's in the patient's best interest, all of that. And I don't know, touch wood, I think it's okay, but don't react. I always say, don't react. We have to respond.
Yeah.
Reactions are no good to anyone.
No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Good. It's lovely because we are always in violent agreement, Lisa.
Yes, that's why we love each other, Pat. It's fine.
It is why we love each other.
Yes. Are you going to be at the dental show next week?
I am indeed. Now, I haven't yet decided I'm going on Saturday as well. Probably not. I'm going on Friday to that. And what about you? What are you doing?
Yes, I think I'm speaking very early on Friday morning with the lovely Mark Topley.
Ah, right. Yes, Mark. I think Mark did mention that to me, actually. Yeah.
So we're doing challenging. It's called Let's Talk About It.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the things that make us very uncomfortable in practice.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, again, it's really good communication. It's Mark's doing 3 scenarios, 3 difficult situations where we're challenged by our team in maybe it's like pay, performance, that kind of situation. Mine is patient based. So asking a patient that we're not, talking to a patient, the right way to talk to a patient about why we're not going to see them anymore, talking to a patient about when they raise a complaint, and talking to a patient that's been abusive. The things that we don't always like, most people don't always like doing. So we're going to be doing a little bit of role play.
Lovely. What time is that, Lisa? Because I'll come to that.
It's like 9:15 on Friday.
Oh, hideous. Yes.
I know, but then we're doing it again on Saturday. I'm not sure what time on Saturday.
Okay.
But if anyone's going, come and support us. We won't involve you in the role play, I promise. Well, it's good because, again, this kind of training comes back to communication, and it's just all sort of links into getting a bit more confident with everything that we're doing in practices. As far as
Mark's just done a lovely course on what it means to be well led for us, which I'm just reviewing the final video content of at the moment, and he's done such a great job on it. So
he's good.
When you see him, please tell him I said that, because it's really good. So I think it's looking at what the well led bit that the CQC are looking at, and looking at it from lots of different perspectives and what it involves. Because I think I often find people say, well, what exactly does well led mean? And he's really nailed it and put it over beautifully. I
think people overthink it sometimes, don't they?
Yes.
It's well led. It's about meetings. It's about people feeling confident, people understanding what their roles are in the practice and what their expectations are of the practice, and just and kind of looking after people. Mark is great, isn't he? Because he talks about culture and things as well, doesn't he? How to
Yes.
And I always say culture isn't about us buying pizza or a treat for someone. Culture's about how we interact with each other and treat each other every single day, every moment, and I think I do sometimes get nervous when, if people practices have got an inspection, because I know obviously they talk to the teams, they talk to the staff, and I've been in some pretty toxic practices, and it's almost like there's kind of enemy behind the lines kind of thing, and it's such a shame, and it's often ignored and allowed, which causes even more toxic culture. And I think Mark just really knows his stuff when it comes comes to this, but I know when I've done a staff questionnaire for other practices, some of it's really brutal and some of it makes me nervous because I feel like
Yeah,
practices are leaving themselves quite vulnerable,
absolutely.
particularly with
Absolutely.
compliance.
Culture is everything, absolutely everything. It really is. I was privileged to be a speaker alongside an amazing guy on Saturday, actually, for one of the LDC groups. And he was talking about toxic culture, and he works in the hospital, and just how utterly horrendous toxic culture is. And yeah, I mean, it's the root to everything. The root, you know, a toxic culture will create endless problems.
Yeah, and it comes back to being well led.
Absolutely, it does.
People want boundaries. People, we can be firm, but still have very strict boundaries. Because
Yeah.
actually, I mean, I've been in practices where owners have sort of stepped away from the management a little bit, and they're like, oh, thank goodness, you know, they were a nightmare, they were difficult, but nothing was ever right, da 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 da. And I go back a few months later and they go, oh my goodness, bring them back. Because people have missed that. I'm not saying, you know, that that was the right way, but being led is being
Yeah.
much better than not being led at all.
Well, it really is. And I think that one of the big problems is that it doesn't form part of the dental undergraduate curriculum. So dentists have no idea how to do this stuff, and are just supposed to do it by osmosis, you know, or breathe the air in, and then they'll learn how to do it. And it's really, really wrong. It really is.
Yeah.
And then also, I think, you know, practice managers, and unless a practice manager does training in how to do all of this stuff, then it's not something people automatically necessarily know how to do. So,
No.
you know, I think there's a long way to go on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we just talked about well led, you know, but you know, effective and caring. When you start to break down what does that actually mean,
Yeah.
it's not difficult. It's kind of, you think of mind, I always think of mind map, get the team, you know, maybe pick a subject, a topic or a Chloe at each practice meeting and go caring. Mind map, how as a practice do we demonstrate that we are caring, you know,
Yeah.
and keep reminding the team,
Yeah.
because that's a great way to be. It's a great positive, creates good positive culture. And if you do get an inspection, actually they are very familiar. How many practices or people do you talk to, Pat, that still don't know what a Chloe is?
Mm.
And it doesn't matter if they don't know what that acronym is, but what's important is that they know what the elements are
Yeah.
that they should be using. And it's like a mind map for us to use, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I often say that you know, so the CQC requires you to have a practice that's safe, that you're caring, that you're responsive, that you're effective, and that you're well led. What in those 5 things would you not want to do?
Mm.
You know, because that's and so people then, a lot of people, I think that CQC and compliance is all about policies. It isn't. It's about those 5 key questions. You know, can you demonstrate your practice is safe? Is what you're doing effective? Can you show that you're caring? Can you show you're responsive? And how are you well led? And that's what compliance is. It's not having shed loads of policies that you have to keep up to date with all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Gilly was talking before, you know, it's Gilly loves a good spreadsheet, good chart. And obviously, you know, quite often we can get some good matrices
Matrices, yes.
matrices in
Yes.
compliance systems that we use. And that I'm seeing lots of practices using those, and I know the practice that I mentioned before that had a really wonderful inspection last week, you know, that was something that was looked at, because
That's good.
Yeah, it's
That's
not just having the right file, the right documents in the files, is it? It's showing, like you
yeah,
say, Jillie's able to show we're planning what do we need, what are we going to provide mandatory next year? Well, I know
yes,
that we've already got Sarah Buxton coming to do equality and diversity.
yeah,
There are online ones you can do, but we're a team of 40 odd.
yeah,
So what we do is we split. We'll have half the practice working and in the morning, and then the other people training, and then switch it round. For me, it's not something you can be blasé about now.
no,
I know there was
no,
a
no,
patient in a practice this week who'd not turned up twice to their NHS appointment, and they were lectured on, not coming in the NHS and da 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 da. Well, this patient is, registered disabled, and he's got a social worker, and that was a mess. It was a mess, and I've listened to the phone calls, and I was like, no,
yeah,
no, why is this receptionist not
yeah,
keyed in? Because she was doing what she was told to do. Patients who miss 2 appointments aren't going to be seen anymore.
yeah.
This, there was even a conversation of, well, if you are special needs, you really probably ought to be seen in community. Oh, and I was like, oh, wow.
Well, now that's really interesting, Lisa, because what that comes down to is team members not feeling empowered to make a decision on the spot about how to handle this particular situation.
Yeah.
And I think that what you said just now is relevant, because you said she was doing what she'd been told to do, whereas really what should happen is that she should be empowered to make a common sense decision that is empathetic to the patient's particular needs, and then that problem wouldn't arise. But that isn't what happens. Very often team members are not empowered. So you get a situation where let's say the patient has come to the desk and said, well, I've been overcharged. The right response to that is, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me look into that for you, and come back with an answer. And so either do it there and then, or come back with an answer. But compare that to how the patient is going to feel with the receptionist says, well, I'll have to check that with the dentist, because what you're really saying, receptionist, what you're really saying is, well, I don't believe you, and he or she's not going to give you your money back. So, so,
Yeah. It's these things that trigger and then escalate.
Definitely.
So it's yes, there's always boundaries, there's always SOPs within anything that we're doing within the practices. But I've always said from the very start with my girls, if you make a decision and you can come and talk to me, not even have to come and talk to me about it, but if you can in your head go, right, okay, this is the situation, this is the elements of what's happened, what's the right thing to do and the good thing to do. And I said, even if it turns out not to be, even if it turns out not to be, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, exactly.
We learn from that anyway, don't we?
Absolutely.
And yeah, we're only human, we will make the odd mistake, but I would much rather, there was one in one of my practices the other day where they're not taking on any NHS patients. They're a UGC at the moment, and a patient had rang up and needed to be seen by the NHS, and he was homeless. He'd come through citizens' advice, and there was all these things that you just like, wow, this man has hit bottom. And he actually said he'd hit bottom and is trying to claw his way. And my receptionist she made the decision to book him in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd have been really disappointed if she hadn't. And she went, I'm okay. I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Yes, of course.
Seriously. You don't even need to ask me that.
Absolutely. No, yeah, that's a really great example, actually, Lisa. Yeah, really great.
No. Okay, yeah. Positive discrimination is still discrimination, you could argue, but for me, I don't think you'd ever be penalised.
It's what you said then is really important. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, and if it costs you a few quid to do it, do it. Because, you know, this is somebody who's hit rock bottom. You know, the world's a difficult enough place for people who are not disabled and don't have all these difficult problems. For people that do, it's just that the world's a very scary place. And, you know, if this person had pain, then the right thing to do is to help them out of the pain. And
he was so polite and very humble.
yeah,
He wasn't demanding.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it was, for me, it was like that guy is lost. He needs somebody to treat him well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
One other thing that's I've been asked a little bit about, and it sparked quite an interesting debate, Pat, is it was a GDPR query that had come up. Now, it was a patient who had, as a child, been seen at the practice, and the parents' emails were on the contact details. Things had happened, and the daughter had now left home, and
What age?
she was now 20, so she'd gone in and into her portal that you get sent and updated her email. Now, depending what software you're using, like Dentally, Exact, that kind of thing, not all of them will delete other emails and just use the one that you've updated. They will still send all of them unless you specifically ask for them not to be. Okay, so this was quite a difficult case where actually there'd been abuse, and the daughter no longer had contact with the parents and obviously didn't want their email on her records. She'd never actually requested it to be taken off. There was no official conversation with us or anything like that. And it caused her a lot of distress. And it turns out that actually, even if the portal link had been sent, it's two-step verification and there's no way they could have got into her details. But it really dawned on me that when we have parents' emails and contact numbers on patient records, once they turn 18, should we be having a system in place where we ask them? Because don't get me wrong, there's still people that are in the 20s that's like relies on them parents to,
And 30s and 40s.
Stop it. Yeah. What's my rules? 24 out the door. That's it.
Yeah.
But it just really, it's something that's never really cropped up before.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can do it on, we've discovered, we've looked at, we can do it on ours with birthdays, you know, having a weekly job of going through who's turned 18, sending, getting in contact with them, sending a letter to ask them if they, can you check that you're, I mean, we get them to check the details, but they don't really check them as well as I think they should.
So when a patient comes in, and do you update? Do you check that their details haven't changed when they come in routinely?
Yeah, our script, so we know that we say it to every single one, as we do them once they do the medical histories remotely, but we check it's been done obviously when they're face to face, is, can you just look at your contact details and confirm they are correct? So it takes the responsibility off us, but I imagine that some just go, oh yeah, like they do with the MHs.
That's their problem. You've done the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done the right, in this particular case. So I mean, so the GDPR requires personal data to be accurate and up to date, and any inaccurate data must be deleted.
Yeah.
And that's the GDPR requirement. Now, if that I'm don't think, I mean, the software systems, that should happen, that the contact details that have been entered should be the only ones there. Now, it seems to me, and it is the responsibility of the practice to make sure that the data is accurate and up to date. So in terms of, should you ask people when they turn 18, if you ask everybody, then, you know, this is our procedure, this is what we do, that's fine. There is also a responsibility on the patient to make sure that their data is up to date. So I think, provided you ask them, can you just have a look at your contact details? Is there anything we need to update on there? If you wanted a belt and braces approach to, then I would suggest you just make a note that says patient confirmed, contact details accurate and up to date, and that's fine. But I don't think you need to go as far as contacting a patient until they come into the practice. So until they come into the practice, as far as you know, their contact details are accurate and up to date.
Well, we can't contact them because actually we'd be contacting the parent.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It is the face.
Yeah.
It is the face-to-face thing. But I do think if you put, if you perhaps, the way that we've looked at it is actually, if we make a note, you know, do a report once a month to pull off anybody that's going to be turning 18, and you could put a little pop-up note on, so that you ask them when you are face to face. I think that's a sensible, definitely a sensible.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, it also means, because we all know that generally children are very good attenders until they turn about 18. You know, my daughter's both gone off to university now, and they'll come back to obviously our practice. But many go off and then don't come back for 3 to 4 years.
Exactly.
So actually making sure we've got the good contacts once they turn 18, the right contacts, means that we've got, you know, from a marketing point of view as well, that means we've got a really good
absolutely right. I think though, if I mean, what I would like to see is the software practice management software companies taking a bit more responsibility in this, because, you know, if an email address has been updated, all other email addresses should be automatically deleted.
So it does, Dentally does.
Yeah.
Exact doesn't, unless you untick it. Physically.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm not naming and shaming. I'm just
no. I had numerous arguments with SOE at with Exact when GDPR came in, and you know, I said, what you're doing is not compliant with GDPR, and they argued that it was. It isn't, though. So, you know, it should do it automatically. However, knowing it doesn't do it automatically and Dentally does, then practices on Exact, I don't know if whatever R4 is called now, does it automatically.
Does anyone use R4? Anybody here use R4?
We do in my practice, but I couldn't tell you if that's
We'll have a look into it.
But it is massively behind the times on a lot of stuff. But I think that I would like to see the software companies taking a bit more responsibility for this. In the absence of them doing that, though, you know, the responsibility does fall to you to make sure that the information is, well, the responsibility still always falls to you to make sure the information is accurate and up to date.
Absolutely. We're just getting up to sort of towards the end. We could go on forever, couldn't we? Do you guys that have joined us, do you have any questions? If you'd rather not say in the group, then you know, you can do it anonymous on the chat, or you can contact us after to ask us a question. That's not a problem at all. But if you have got something, please feel free to ask. Pat is in the hot seat.
Absolutely. Ask anything.
Mastermind.
We're here to help. Absolutely, for sure. Whether or not you use our system, I'll still always help any and everybody.
I think this is the thing. I've actually it's so nice to have a compliance system that you can rely on, and the guys that work with Dentistry Compliance are fantastic at listening to us. What do we want? What are we finding?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I know Jilly's got a bit of feedback on the training matrix. You
Yeah.
know, all of these things get listened to,
Yeah,
which actually
they
helps
do.
us
Yeah.
do our
Well,
job.
why wouldn't
And
you? Why
yeah.
wouldn't it's
Oh.
like why wouldn't you? Because it's what we were saying about complaints and feedback from staff and patients. Why wouldn't you listen? Because it's there to help you, help
Yeah, I
us
mean,
and help you. Yeah.
it happens though, Pat. I mean, I get asked to ask for my opinion on certain services and things quite often, and you know, I'm like, oh, great, okay, that's great. That's so diligent that they're asking for feedback to learn to improve. And there's some that and I don't do it in a horrible way, obviously, but there's some, the moment you start giving feedback, they go, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
and they ghost you.
That's just crazy. That is utterly crazy.
Yes.
Because guess what? If you feel like that, so do a pile of other people. So wouldn't it be helpful to know how you're feeling about it? I'm a great believer, though, and this may not be commercially something that anyone would want to think was a good idea. You know, we're there to help. You're there to help your clients. I'm there to help anybody who wants help. And so it would never depend on whether you use our system or not as to whether I give you help. So always feel you can ask me and Lisa anything.
Yeah, and despite that, have a dentistry compliance demo if you haven't had one, because it's great. It is great. In fact, I'm gonna have to go and tidy myself up in a moment because I've got Shani from
Yes, she asked me. So this is from Dentistry Compliance. She wants to film you, and I meant to go back to, all right, why don't you say that you know, obviously we have to protect the confidentiality of people who join us, but what about filming one of these sessions? Or
Yeah.
no, you just give her a recording actually to release, would you?
Yeah, she can.
But then today's recording involved us talking about autumn and holidays, so but
no, but there's going to be.
I can cut that bit out.
But yeah, so I think she
Yeah.
wants to talk to Jilly. I've
Yeah.
got to. I'm on my way down to South Wales about 4 o'clock, so I said we'll have to have like super quick films.
Yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely.
it's fine. But yeah, Shani's turning up with a video camera in a moment, because they want us to talk about a bit about compliance and how we find systems.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for everyone that's joined us. Really appreciate it. And for those that are listening to us, not live, we hope you found that useful too. We're probably back again in a month.
Yes, I think that's
we've got it in the diary somewhere.
I think we have it in the diary for October.
Fabulous.
So thank you for joining us. I recognize names there.
Thank you, Pat. You've been brilliant.
And as I said, anytime you need help with anything, you know where we are.
Super. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Pat.
Thank you,
Sam.
Thank you, Lisa. See you next week.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.